I never thought my wedding would become the center of a family war. Yet here I am, 29 years old, watching my dream day transform into a battlefield because of one simple decision, refusing to invite the Millers. Let me start from the beginning. 3 years ago, fresh out of graduate school, with student loans crushing my shoulders, I moved to Boston for my first real job. The housing market was brutal. One-bedroom apartments cost more than my monthly salary. That's when my parents suggested reaching out to their longtime friends and business partners, the Millers, who had a guest house they rented out. Only $400 a month, Emma. You won't find a better deal anywhere in the city, my mom had said enthusiastically over the phone. It sounded perfect. Affordable housing in an expensive city. Plus, my parents trusted these people. What could possibly go wrong? Everything, as it turned out. The first week was lovely. Diane and Robert Miller welcomed me warmly, introduced me to their 3 teenagers, and even invited me for dinner. Then I mentioned I was seeing someone. "Oh, you have a boyfriend?" Diane's smile tightened slightly. How nice. That was the beginning of the end of our cordial relationship. When Noah visited for the first time, the temperature in the house dropped 10 degrees. Robert barely acknowledged him, while Diane made backhanded comments throughout dinner. "So you were adopted? That must be difficult," she said to Noah between bites of overcooked chicken. "Do you ever wonder why your real parents didn't want you?" I nearly choked on my water. Noah, always gracious, simply smiled and explained he had wonderful adoptive parents who gave him a loving home. But the damage was done. The Millers' interference grew more intrusive as months passed. They reported my every move to my parents, claiming I was rarely home. I was working 60-hour weeks at my new job and bringing men over just Noah, my boyfriend of 3 years. "Emma, the Millers are concerned about you," my mom would call to say. "They said you came home at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. Is everything okay?" I couldn't even do laundry without Robert or Diane finding a reason to enter the guest house. One particularly uncomfortable afternoon, Robert cornered me while I was folding clothes. "My marriage isn't what it used to be," he confided, standing too close. "Diane hasn't been interested in the bedroom for years." I made some excuse about a work deadline and fled to my room, locking the door behind me. Things reached a breaking point when the refrigerator in the guest house broke down. Instead of replacing it as any normal landlord would, the Millers insisted I buy a new one, a $900 expense I couldn't afford. When I asked if they could cover it since it was their property, Diane called my parents. "Your daughter is trying to take advantage of our generosity," she told them. To my dismay, my parents sided with the Millers. They always did. "Emma, these people are giving you such an affordable place to live. The least you could do is replace a fridge." By the end of that year, I couldn't take it anymore. I found an apartment with 2 roommates and moved out without saying goodbye. I wanted a clean break. Fast forward to last summer. Noah proposed during a weekend trip to the coast. When he got down on one knee with that perfect emerald-cut diamond, I couldn't say yes fast enough. To my surprise, my parents seemed genuinely happy for us. My dad even teared up when Noah told him he'd asked for their blessing weeks earlier. "We're thrilled for you both," my mom said, hugging me tightly. Maybe things were finally turning around with my family. Maybe we could put the Miller situation behind us. I was wrong. 3 months into wedding planning, as Noah and I discussed our guest list over coffee, my phone lit up with a text from my dad. "Don't forget to add the Millers to your invitation list." They've been asking about the wedding. I stared at the message, feeling my stomach knot. Noah noticed my expression change. "What's wrong, babe?" he asked, reaching for my hand. "My parents want me to invite the Millers to our wedding," I replied, my voice hollow. "The ones who made your life hell for a year? No way," Noah said firmly. "This is our day, not theirs." He was right. Our wedding day should be filled with people who supported us, who brought joy to our lives, not people who had belittled and disrespected us both. I texted my dad back, "I'm sorry, but Noah and I don't feel comfortable having the Millers at our wedding." His response came seconds later. "This isn't up for discussion. They're coming." That was the beginning of what my brother later called the wedding war. My parents couldn't understand why I wouldn't invite their friends. I couldn't understand why they'd insist on having people who had treated me so poorly at the most important day of my life. These are our business partners, Emma. My dad shouted during one particularly heated phone call. Do you know how awkward it will be when they find out they're not invited? More awkward than them being at my wedding. After they spent a year making comments about Noah being adopted, I fired back. The fight escalated. My mom stopped returning my calls about wedding plans. My dad sent long guilt-inducing messages about how I was starting my happy life by destroying theirs. Then came the nuclear option. My mother uninvited me to Christmas. If you can't respect our wishes for your wedding, don't bother coming home for the holidays, she texted. Noah held me as I cried that night, wondering how my relationship with my parents had deteriorated so quickly. How had a simple no turned into such a devastating family fracture? I tried apologizing, not for my decision, but for the pain it was causing. I sent heartfelt messages explaining why having the Millers at our wedding would be uncomfortable for both Noah and me. They wouldn't listen. Now I'm 4 months away from my wedding day, staring at my phone, wondering if my parents will even be there to see me walk down the aisle. All because I refused to invite the Millers. What makes this situation even more complicated is that we're planning a destination wedding in Tulum. The festivities will stretch across 4 days: welcome dinner, beach day, rehearsal, and finally the ceremony. If I cave and invite the Millers, I'd be subjecting myself to nearly a week of their presence. I can already imagine turning a corner at the resort and running into Robert, watching his eyes evaluate my appearance with that uncomfortable, lingering gaze. Noah's parents have been incredible throughout this entire ordeal. When we told them about my parents' ultimatum, Carol and James immediately offered their support. "This is your wedding," Carol said firmly, placing her hands on my shoulders. "The guest list is your decision, not anyone else's." The irony isn't lost on me that the Millers, who made derogatory comments about Noah being adopted, aren't wanted at our wedding, while his adoptive parents are standing firmly in our corner, demonstrating what real family support looks like. Last week, I spent the afternoon with Carol looking at floral arrangements. While discussing centerpieces, she gently brought up my family situation. "Emma, I hope you know James and I would be willing to compromise on almost anything to make sure your parents attend your wedding. But we also don't want you spending your wedding day feeling uncomfortable." I fought back tears. The Millers invest money in my dad's business. They're 50-50th partners. I think he's scared if he doesn't invite them, they'll pull out their investment. Carol's expression softened with understanding. So this is financial blackmail, not just a social obligation. That word, blackmail, has been echoing in my mind ever since. Is that what this is? My parents choosing business interests over my comfort on my wedding day? I've started having nightmares about the wedding. In one particularly vivid dream, I was walking down the aisle only to find Diane Miller standing beside Noah at the altar, smirking as she announced, "We've been business partners with your father for 15 years. Did you really think we'd miss this?" Yesterday morning, things escalated beyond anything I could have imagined. I woke up to a barrage of text messages from my mother, each one more unhinged than the last. "Emma, this has gone far enough. You need to end this engagement. Cancel the wedding immediately. Quit your job and move back home where you belong. You obviously need time to mature and think about your priorities." I sat stunned, reading and reading the messages. After months of fighting about the guest list, my mother was now demanding I cancel my entire wedding? When I called Noah to read him the messages, he drove straight to my apartment, concern etched across his face. What happened between yesterday and today? He wondered aloud. This seems extreme, even for them. I spent the afternoon trying to make sense of it. My parents had given their blessing to our engagement just 6 months ago. They'd seemed genuinely happy about it. Now suddenly my mother wanted me to break things off completely? My brother Jason called that evening. I think you should know Mom and Dad had dinner with the Millers last night." I overheard them arguing when they got home. The Millers were apparently furious about not being invited. Things started making more sense. The Millers must have really laid into my parents about the wedding, and rather than stand up for me, my parents decided it would be easier if the wedding simply didn't happen at all. "I can't believe they'd choose the Millers over their own daughter," I whispered. "I don't think they see it that way," Jason replied. "Dad kept saying something about losing everything he's worked for. I think he's genuinely scared the Millers will pull out of the business if they feel insulted." Noah and I spent the weekend discussing options. We considered postponing the wedding, changing the location, even eloping. But with each scenario we played out, one truth remained constant. If we gave in now, my parents and the Millers would control our lives forever. Today it's our wedding guest list, Noah said, squeezing my hand. Tomorrow it might be where we live or how we raise our children. We need to establish boundaries now. He was right. This wasn't just about a wedding anymore. It was about standing our ground, as adults making our own decisions. I decided to write my parents one final email explaining my position. I spent hours crafting it, trying to be respectful while remaining firm. Mom and Dad, I love you both and want you at my wedding more than anything. But I cannot and will not invite people who have disrespected Noah and me repeatedly. The Millers made inappropriate comments about Noah's adoption, made me uncomfortable in my own living space, and treated us both with contempt. Our wedding day should be surrounded by love and support, not tension and discomfort. I understand your business relationship with them is important, but please try to understand that my relationship with my future husband is important too. I'm not asking you to end your friendship with them. I'm simply asking you to respect our decision about our own wedding guest list. I hope you'll reconsider your position. I would be heartbroken to walk down the aisle without you there, but that choice is yours to make. I hit send and waited. Hours passed with no response. Then days. A week later, my phone rang. My father's name appeared on the screen. I answered with a racing heart. Emma, his voice sounded tired. Your mother and I have discussed things. We still think you're making a mistake, but we've decided we will attend the wedding. Relief flooded through me. Thank you, Dad. That means everything to me. However, he continued, his tone hardening, we want you to know that the Millers are deeply hurt by this exclusion. Robert has mentioned reconsidering some aspects of our business arrangement. The relief evaporated as quickly as it had come. This wasn't my father choosing me over his business partners. This was him letting me know there would be consequences. I'm sorry to hear that, I managed to reply. I hope you two can work things out. We could, if you would just reconsider about the invitation, he said pointedly. I closed my eyes, steeling myself. My decision hasn't changed, Dad. I hope yours doesn't either. After hanging up, I felt strangely calm. For the first time in months, I wasn't agonizing over whether I was making the right choice. I knew I was. Noah and I deserved to start our marriage on our own terms, not catering to people who had treated us poorly out of fear of financial repercussions. That evening, Noah surprised me with a small gift, a framed photo of us from our first vacation together. For our sweetheart table at the reception, he explained. To remind us that no matter who shows up, this day is about us and the life we're building together. Looking at our smiling faces in that photo, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. My parents might attend our wedding reluctantly. They might hold this decision against me for years to come. The Millers might even follow through on their threat to withdraw from my father's business. But none of that changed the fact that Noah and I were creating our own family now, one built on respect, support, and standing up for each other. And that was worth fighting for, no matter the cost. What makes this situation even more complicated is that we're planning a destination wedding in Tulum. The festivities will stretch across 4 days. Welcome dinner, beach day, rehearsal, and finally the ceremony. If I cave and invite the Millers, I'd be subjecting myself to nearly a week of their presence. I can already imagine turning a corner at the resort and running into Robert, watching his eyes evaluate my appearance with that uncomfortable, lingering gaze. Noah's parents have been incredible throughout this entire ordeal. When we told them about my parents' ultimatum, Carol and James immediately offered their support. This is your wedding, Carol said firmly, placing her hands on my shoulders. The guest list is your decision, not anyone else's. The irony isn't lost on me that the Millers, who made derogatory comments about Noah being adopted, aren't wanted at our wedding, while his adoptive parents are standing firmly in our corner, demonstrating what real family support looks like. Last week, I spent the afternoon with Carol looking at floral arrangements. While discussing centerpieces, she gently brought up my family situation. Emma, I hope you know James and I would be willing to compromise on almost anything to make sure your parents attend your wedding. But we also don't want you spending your wedding day feeling uncomfortable. I fought back tears. The Millers invest money in my dad's business. They're 50/50ths partners. I think he's scared if he doesn't invite them, they'll pull out their investment. Carol's expression softened with understanding. So this is financial blackmail, not just a social obligation. That word blackmail has been echoing in my mind ever since. Is that what this is? My parents choosing business interests over my comfort on my wedding day? I've started having nightmares about the wedding. In one particularly vivid dream, I was walking down the aisle only to find Diane Miller standing beside Noah at the altar, smirking as she announced, "We've been business partners with your father for 15 years. Did you really think we'd miss this?" Yesterday morning, things escalated beyond anything I could have imagined. I woke up to a barrage of text messages from my mother, each one more unhinged than the last. "Emma, this has gone far enough. You need to end this engagement. Cancel the wedding immediately. Quit your job and move back home where you belong. You obviously need time to mature and think about your priorities." I sat stunned, reading the messages. After months of fighting about the guest list, my mother was now demanding I cancel my entire wedding? When I called Noah to read him the messages, he drove straight to my apartment, concern etched across his face. What happened between yesterday and today? He wondered aloud. This seems extreme, even for them. I spent the afternoon trying to make sense of it. My parents had given their blessing to our engagement just 6 months ago. They'd seemed genuinely happy about it. Now suddenly my mother wanted me to break things off completely. My brother Jason called that evening. I think you should know Mom and Dad had dinner with the Millers last night. I overheard them arguing when they got home. The Millers were apparently furious about not being invited. Things started making more sense. The Millers must have really laid into my parents about the wedding, and rather than stand up for me, my parents decided it would be easier if the wedding simply didn't happen at all. I can't believe they'd choose the Millers over their own daughter, I whispered. I don't think they see it that way, Jason replied. Dad kept saying something about losing everything he's worked for. I think he's genuinely scared. The Millers will pull out of the business if they feel insulted. Noah and I spent the weekend discussing options. We considered postponing the wedding, changing the location, even eloping. But with each scenario we played out, one truth remained constant. If we gave in now, my parents and the Millers would control our lives forever. Today it's our wedding guest list, Noah said, squeezing my hand. Tomorrow it might be where we live, or how we raise our children. We need to establish boundaries now. He was right. This wasn't just about a wedding anymore. It was about standing our ground as adults making our own decisions. I decided to write my parents one final email, explaining my position. I spent hours crafting it, trying to be respectful while remaining firm. Mom and Dad, I love you both and want you at my wedding more than anything. But I cannot and will not invite people who have disrespected Noah and me repeatedly. The Millers made inappropriate comments about Noah's adoption, made me uncomfortable in my own living space, and treated us both with contempt. Our wedding day should be surrounded by love and support, not tension and discomfort. I understand your business relationship with them is important, but please try to understand that my relationship with my future husband is important too. I'm not asking you to end your friendship with them. I'm simply asking you to respect our decision about our own wedding guest list. I hope you'll reconsider your position. I would be heartbroken to walk down the aisle without you there. But that choice is yours to make. I hit send and waited. Hours passed with no response, then days. A week later, my phone rang. My father's name appeared on the screen. I answered with a racing heart. Emma. His voice sounded tired. Your mother and I have discussed things. We still think you're making a mistake, but we've decided we will attend the wedding. Relief flooded through me. Thank you, Dad. That means everything to me. However, he continued, his tone hardening, we want you to know that the Millers are deeply hurt by this exclusion. Robert has mentioned reconsidering some aspects of our business arrangement. The relief evaporated as quickly as it had come. This wasn't my father choosing me over his business partners. This was him letting me know there would be consequences. I'm sorry to hear that, I managed to reply. I hope you two can work things out. We could if you would just reconsider about the invitation, he said pointedly. I closed my eyes, steeling myself. My decision hasn't changed, Dad. I hope yours doesn't either. After hanging up, I felt strangely calm. For the first time in months, I wasn't agonizing over whether I was making the right choice. I knew I was. Noah and I deserved to start our marriage on our own terms. not catering to people who had treated us poorly out of fear of financial repercussions. That evening, Noah surprised me with a small gift, a framed photo of us from our first vacation together, for our sweetheart table at the reception, he explained. To remind us that no matter who shows up, this day is about us and the life we're building together. Looking at our smiling faces in that photo, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. My parents might attend our wedding reluctantly. They might hold this decision against me for years to come. The Millers might even follow through on their threat to withdraw from my father's business. But none of that changed the fact that Noah and I were creating our own family now, one built on respect, support, and standing up for each other. And that was worth fighting for, no matter the cost. As the wedding date grew closer, I tried to focus on the positive aspects, finalizing the menu, confirming flower arrangements, and completing our honeymoon plans. Noah's mother stepped in to help with all the tasks my own mother would typically handle. She never mentioned the tension with my parents or made me feel guilty about it. Instead, she embraced me like a daughter, offering wisdom and support when I needed it most. My future sister-in-law, Lauren, became my impromptu maid of honor after my childhood friend backed out, claiming she couldn't afford the trip to Tulum. I suspected my mother had something to do with her sudden budget concerns, but I chose not to press the issue. Lauren had always been warm toward me, and having her stand beside me felt right. 3 weeks before the wedding, I received an unexpected call from my brother. "Emma, something weird is happening," Jason said, his voice low as if he were afraid of being overheard. "Mom's been showing people your old high school photos and telling them you were such a sweet, obedient daughter back then. And Dad's been having these closed-door meetings with the Millers. I overheard him say something about teaching her a lesson she won't forget." A chill ran down my spine. "What do you think they're planning?" I asked, dreading the answer. "I don't know for sure," Jason admitted, "but whatever it is, it's not good. Just be prepared for anything." That night, I told Noah about the conversation. His jaw tightened as I relayed my brother's warning. "Maybe we should hire security for the wedding," he suggested, only half joking. I wouldn't put it past the Millers to cause a scene. I laughed nervously, but the thought had already crossed my mind. What if they showed up uninvited? What if my parents brought them despite our wishes? The wedding was in Mexico, not exactly somewhere we could easily turn people away if they appeared. The following day, I received an email that sent my anxiety through the roof. It was from my mother, with the subject line, "A compromise." The message was brief. "Emma, your father and I have decided we will attend your wedding without the Millers. However, we are hosting a pre-wedding celebration at our home next weekend for all our friends, including the Millers. We expect you and Noah to attend. This is non-negotiable." My hands shook as I forwarded the email to Noah. This wasn't a compromise, it was another demand. Another attempt to force us into a situation where we would have to face the Millers. I called my mother immediately. "Mom, we won't be able to attend a party next weekend. We have final wedding arrangements to make here." Her voice was cold when she responded. "If you can't make time for this small request, perhaps we won't be able to make time for your wedding after all." The threat hung in the air between us. I was tired of the manipulation, tired of the guilt trips. "That's your choice to make," I said finally, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. "Our invitation to you and Dad still stands. We hope you'll be there." I hung up before she could respond, my heart pounding but my resolve stronger than ever. The day before our flight to Tulum, one still hadn't heard from my parents about whether they would attend the wedding. Noah tried to keep my spirits up as we packed, but the uncertainty weighed heavily on me. "They'll come around," he assured me, folding his suits into his suitcase. "They're your parents. They wouldn't miss this." I wished I shared his optimism. As I zipped up my luggage, my phone rang. My aunt, Melissa's name flashing on the screen. I answered immediately. Aunt Melissa had always been my ally, the reasonable voice in family disputes. "Emma, honey," she began, her voice laced with concern. "I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it." My stomach dropped as she explained that my parents had indeed booked their flights to Mexico, but they were bringing the Millers with them. Apparently, they'd decided to surprise me by showing up with Robert and Diane, assuming that once everyone was there, I wouldn't make a scene. "Your mom thinks once you see them, You'll realize you've been childish and welcome them with open arms," Aunt Melissa explained. I told her she was making a terrible mistake, but she wouldn't listen. I sank onto the bed, stunned. "They're doing exactly what we asked them not to do," I whispered. "Why can't they respect this one boundary?" Noah took the phone from my trembling hand. "Melissa, it's Noah. Are you certain about this?" I could hear the edge in his voice as he listened to my aunt confirm the details. After hanging up, he sat beside me, his jaw set in determination. "We need to call the resort right now. We'll make sure they know not to allow the Millers onto the property." We spent the next hour on the phone with the resort manager, explaining the situation. Since we had paid for the entire wedding package and reserved a block of rooms, they agreed to provide additional security and check guests against our approved list. It wasn't a perfect solution. We couldn't prevent the Millers from staying somewhere else in Tulum, but at least they wouldn't be in our wedding venue or at any of our events. That night, I drafted a message to my parents. "I've just learned that you're planning to bring the Millers to our wedding against our explicit wishes. I want to be clear, they will not be permitted at any wedding events. The resort has been notified. If you choose to bring them anyway, understand that you are disrespecting our boundaries in our marriage before it even begins. I love you both, but I will not allow this day to be hijacked by your business concerns." After showing it to Noah, who nodded his approval, I hit send. Then I turned off my phone. Whatever response my parents had, it could wait until morning. The last thing I needed was another sleepless night before our travel day. When we landed in Mexico 2 days later, I finally turned my phone back on to find no fewer than 15 missed calls from my parents and a series of increasingly frantic text messages. The final one, sent just hours before, read simply, "We'll be there without the Millers. Please call us." Relief washed over me, quickly followed by skepticism. Had they really given up their plan so easily? Or was this just another manipulation tactic? I showed the message to Noah, who squeezed my hand. "Let's take it at face value for now," he suggested, "but stay vigilant." The resort was everything we'd hoped for. White sand beaches stretching for miles, crystal clear water, and staff who greeted us with warm smiles and cold drinks. Our guests would begin arriving the next day, with the welcome dinner scheduled for tomorrow evening. Despite my lingering anxiety about my parents, I felt some of the tension leave my body as Noah and I settled into our suite. "We made it," he whispered, pulling me close on our balcony overlooking the ocean. "Whatever happens next, we're here together." I rested my head on his shoulder, allowing myself to hope that maybe, just maybe, the drama was behind us. The next morning, I was having breakfast with Noah's parents and sister when my phone buzzed with a text from Jason, just landed. "Mom and Dad are here too. No sign of the Millers." I showed the message to Noah, relief evident on my face. Perhaps my parents had finally understood how important this was to me. When they arrived at the resort later that afternoon, I met them in the lobby with cautious optimism. My mother hugged me stiffly while my father stood back, his expression unreadable. "Your room is in the East Wing," I told them, handing over their key cards. "The welcome dinner starts at 7. My mother nodded tensely. "We'll be there." As they walked away, Noah's mother approached, placing a reassuring hand on my arm. "That wasn't so bad, was it?" she asked kindly. I wished I could share her optimism, but something in my parents' demeanor left me uneasy. They hadn't brought the Millers, but they were clearly unhappy about it. I couldn't shake the feeling that we hadn't heard the last of this conflict. The welcome dinner that evening was a beautiful affair, tables set up on the beach, lanterns glowing against the darkening sky, the sound of waves providing a soothing backdrop to conversations and laughter. Noah and I made our rounds, greeting friends and family members who had traveled so far to celebrate with us. My parents sat with my brother and his wife, barely interacting with anyone else. Several times I caught my mother checking her phone, her expression growing increasingly agitated. Halfway through the dinner, my father abruptly left the table, walking toward the resort with his phone pressed to his ear. I tried not to let their behavior affect me, focusing instead on our other guests who were genuinely happy to be there. After all, nearly 60 people had come to share in our joy. I wouldn't let 2 unhappy faces ruin the evening. As the night wound down, Noah's sister Lauren pulled me aside. "Your dad's been on his phone all night," she whispered, and I overheard him mention the Millers' names several times. My stomach clenched. "Do you think they're still planning something?" Lauren squeezed my arm. "I don't know. but I've asked a few of Noah's cousins to keep an eye out, just in case. Try not to worry, we've got your back. The next day was meant to be relaxed. A group excursion to some nearby cenotes in the morning, followed by free time for guests to explore Tulum or enjoy the resort amenities. Noah and I were just about to join the excursion when my brother came running up to us, out of breath and clearly distressed. "Emma," he panted, "they're here. The Millers just checked into a hotel down the beach." The blood drained from my face. "Are you sure?" Jason nodded grimly. "Dad's with them right now. I followed him when he left early this morning. They're staying about half a mile away." Noah's expression hardened. "This stops now," he said firmly, pulling out his phone. "I'm calling resort security to make absolutely certain they understand these people are not to be allowed anywhere near our events." While Noah spoke with security, I tried to process this betrayal. My parents had promised they wouldn't bring the Millers, yet here they were, lurking just down the beach. Had that been their plan all along? To placate me with false promises, while still ensuring their precious business partners could be nearby? The excursion forgotten, Noah and I spent the next hour reinforcing security measures with the resort staff. We provided photos of the Millers that Jason had on his phone and made sure every staff member working. Our events knew they were not permitted entry under any circumstances. That evening, as we prepared for the rehearsal dinner, I received a text from an unknown number. "Emma, this is Diane Miller. Your father gave me your number. We're hurt that you've excluded us from your special day after all we've done for you. Robert and I would like to meet with you tomorrow morning to clear the air before your ceremony. Please don't let misunderstandings ruin what should be a happy occasion." I showed the message to Noah, my hands shaking with anger. "The audacity," he muttered, shaking his head. "After everything they put you through." I deleted the message without responding and blocked the number. Then I sent a message to my father. "I know the Millers are here, and I know you've been in contact with them. This is your final warning, Dad. If they show up at any of our wedding events, you and Mom will be asked to leave as well. I won't allow anyone to disrupt our day, even my own parents." Within minutes, my father appeared at our suite door, his face flushed with anger. "You need to stop this childish behavior," he hissed when I opened the door. "The Millers have been nothing but generous to you. They gave you a place to live when you couldn't afford rent." I stood my ground, looking him straight in the eye. "They made my life miserable for a year. They disrespected Noah repeatedly. They commented on his adoption as if it made him less worthy. And you want them at our wedding because of business?" My father's expression flickered, a moment of doubt before the anger returned. "You have no idea what's at stake here," he snapped. "My entire business could collapse." Noah stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "With all due respect, sir, that's not Emma's problem, and it certainly shouldn't be hanging over our wedding day." My father stood in the doorway of our suite, his face a storm of conflicting emotions. "You have no right to dictate who I associate with," he said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "The Millers have been our friends for 20 years. 20 years, Emma. Long before you met Noah." Noah placed a protective hand on my shoulder. "This conversation isn't productive right now. We have a rehearsal dinner to attend." My father's eyes narrowed at Noah. "You've poisoned her against us. She was never this difficult before you came along." The accusation hung in the air like smoke. I felt something inside me crack, the last thread of hope that my parents might put me first. Just this once. "Noah didn't poison me against anyone," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "The Millers did that all by themselves when they made me uncomfortable in my own home, when Robert made inappropriate comments while I was doing laundry, when Diane questioned why Noah's Errol parents didn't want him." My father flinched at this last part. Good. He needed to hear it. "And you?" I continued. "You poisoned our relationship when you chose business partners over your daughter. When you threatened to skip my wedding if I didn't bend to your will." "That's not fair," he started. "No, what's not fair is you bringing the Millers to Tulum after promising they wouldn't come. What's not fair is making my wedding about your business interests." I stepped back, pulling Noah with me. "The rehearsal starts in 30 minutes. You and Mom are still welcome to attend." "The Millers are not. That's my final word on the subject." I closed the door before he could respond, then leaned against it, trembling. Noah wrapped his arms around me. "I'm so proud of you," he whispered into my hair. Do you think they'll actually show up tonight? I asked. I don't know, he admitted. But whatever happens, we'll handle it together. The rehearsal dinner was set in a private garden within the resort stone pathways lined with flickering torches, tables adorned with tropical flowers, and strings of lights creating a canopy of stars above us. It should have been magical. Instead, I spent the first half hour anxiously scanning the entrance, watching for any sign of my parents, or, worse, the Millers. Try to relax, Noah's mother urged, handing me a glass of champagne. The security staff knows what to do. I nodded, taking a grateful sip. Carol was right, I couldn't spend my entire wedding weekend on high alert. Just as I was beginning to enjoy myself, mingling with Noah's extended family, my phone buzzed. A text from Jason, SOS. Mom and Dad are at the entrance with the Millers. Security stopped them. Dad's causing a scene. My heart plummeted. I showed Noah the message. I'll handle this, he said grimly. You stay here. No. I gripped his arm. We do this together. We made our way to the garden entrance where my father was indeed causing a scene, his voice rising as he argued with the resort security manager. This is ridiculous. These are our personal guests, he was shouting. Behind him stood my mother, looking uncomfortable, and the Millers, Robert with a smug expression, and Diane with a look of feigned hurt on her face. Emma, Robert called when he spotted me. There you are, sweetheart. Tell these people there's been a misunderstanding. The familiar way he addressed me sweetheart sent a shiver of revulsion down my spine. There's no misunderstanding, I said clearly. You weren't invited. My father's face reddened. Emma, don't be ridiculous. The Millers came all this way. No one asked them to. Noah cut in. Diane stepped forward, her voice syrupy. Emma dear, we've known you since you were in diapers. Your parents are our dearest friends. Surely you don't want to create this awkwardness. Something in me snapped at her condescending tone. 3 years of pent-up frustration, months of battling my parents, and the stress of the past few days culminated in a moment of pure clarity. Mrs. Miller, I said, my voice clear and carrying. Let me be perfectly clear. You and your husband made my life miserable when I lived in your guest house. You insulted my fiancé repeatedly. You violated my privacy. You reported my every move to my parents like I was a wayward teenager instead of a grown woman. And now you've shown up uninvited to my wedding, after being explicitly told you weren't welcome. Robert's face darkened. Now listen here. No, you listen. Noah interrupted, stepping slightly in front of me. This is our wedding. We decide who attends. And we've decided that we don't want people who disrespect us to be part of our celebration. My father moved toward Noah, his finger pointed accusingly. You have no idea what you're doing. Robert could pull his investment and my entire business would collapse. Is that what you want? What I want, I said, stepping between them, is for my father to care more about his daughter's happiness than his business partner's feelings. What I want is parents who respect my decisions as an adult. I turned to the security manager. Please escort the Millers off the property. My parents are still welcome to stay, but only if they come alone. The security manager nodded and moved toward the Millers. You'll regret this, Robert snarled as security approached. Mark my words. Diane placed a restraining hand on her husband's arm, her eyes cold. Let it go, Robert. It's clear we're not wanted here. She turned to my parents. Charles, Linda, are you coming with us or staying at this event? The moment of truth had arrived. I held my breath as my parents exchanged glances. My mother looked at me, tears in her eyes. For a moment I thought she might choose me. Then she turned away. We can't stay where our friends aren't welcome, my father said stiffly. Emma, when you come to your senses, you know where to find us. They turned and walked away, all four of them, leaving me standing at the entrance to my rehearsal dinner, watching my parents choose the Millers over me one final time. Noah's arm circled my waist. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I leaned into him, surprisingly calm. Don't be. They made their choice. Now we can make ours without guilt. We returned to the dinner, where Noah briefly explained the situation to our guests. His parents rallied around us, as did my brother Jason and the few relatives from my side who had come despite my parents' disapproval. To Emma and Noah, Jason toasted later that evening, raising his glass. Who taught me what it means to stand up for yourself and for the people you love? As glasses clinked around the table, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. Tomorrow, I would marry the man I loved, surrounded by people who truly supported us. My parents' absence would hurt, I couldn't pretend otherwise, but it was a pain I could bear with Noah by my side. The morning of our wedding dawned clear and bright, sunlight streaming through the curtains of our suite. I woke before Noah, slipping quietly onto the balcony to watch the waves roll in. The resort was beginning to stir, staff setting up chairs on the beach where we would exchange vows. That afternoon, florists arriving with buckets of fresh flowers. Noah joined me a few minutes later, wrapping his arms around me from behind. "Any regrets?" he asked softly. I turned in his embrace. "About marrying you? Never. About your parents." I sighed, resting my head against his chest. "I wish things were different, but I don't regret standing my ground." He kissed the top of my head. "Whatever happens today, remember that we're starting our own family. One where boundaries are respected and business deals don't trump relationships." I smiled up at him. "I love you." "I love you too," he replied. "Now, I believe tradition says we shouldn't see each other until the ceremony, so I'm going to grab my things and head to Jason's room." After Noah left, Lauren and Carol arrived to help me prepare. We spent the morning in a whirlwind of activity, hair, makeup, mimosas, and laughter. I tried not to think about my mother, who should have been there zipping up my dress and adjusting my veil. Instead, Carol stepped in, her eyes misty as she secured the delicate crown of flowers in my hair. "You look beautiful," she said, squeezing my hands. Noah won't know what hit him. At 3 o'clock, there was a knock at the door. Lauren opened it to reveal Jason, looking handsome in his suit. "Wow, Em," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You're stunning." I smoothed the front of my simple silk dress. "Is everything ready?" "All set. The guests are seated, the officiant is in place, and Noah is waiting for you." He hesitated. "There's something else. Mom and Dad are here." My heart leapt. "What? Where?" "They're waiting outside. They came alone, no Millers in sight. Dad asked if he could walk you down the aisle." I pressed a hand to my mouth, overwhelmed. "What should I do?" Jason shrugged. "That's entirely up to you, sis. No one would blame you if you said no after everything they've put you through." Carol touched my arm gently. "Emma, listen to your heart. What do you want? Not what you think you should want or what would make other people happy. What would make this day perfect for you?" I closed my eyes, searching my feelings. Despite everything, they were still my parents. And deep down, I'd been dreading walking down the aisle without them. "I want to see them," I said finally. "Alone, please." Everyone cleared out, and a minute later, my parents entered the room. My mother gasped when she saw me, tears immediately filling her eyes. "Emma," she whispered, "you're beautiful." My father stood awkwardly behind her, emotion evident on his face despite his attempt to remain stoic. "You came," I said simply. "We couldn't miss our only daughter's wedding," my mother replied. "No matter what. What about the Millers?" I asked, unable to keep the edge from my voice. My father stepped forward. "They're gone, back to Boston." "What about your business? The investment?" He sighed heavily. "Some things are more important than business." It took me too long to remember that. He reached for my hand tentatively. "I'm sorry, Emma. Truly sorry. I put money and relationships with the wrong people ahead of my relationship with you. I should have protected you from Robert's inappropriate behavior instead of enabling it. I should have listened when you told us how uncomfortable they made you and Noah. We both should have," my mother added, wiping away tears. "Can you forgive us?" I studied their faces, searching for signs of manipulation or insincerity. But all I saw was regret, love, and hope. "I forgive you," I said finally, "but things need to change going forward. Noah and I are building our own family now. We need to know you respect our boundaries and our decisions." "We will," my father promised. "Starting today," I took a deep breath. "In that case, Dad, I'd be honored if you would walk me down the aisle." His face lit up with relief and joy. My mother embraced me carefully, mindful of my dress. "We love you so much," she whispered, "and we're so proud of the strong woman you've become, even when that strength was directed against us." Jason reappeared at the doorway. "It's time," he announced, grinning at the sight of our reconciliation. As the familiar strains of music began, I took my father's arm. We made our way down to the beach where rows of white chairs faced the ocean. My mother was already seated in the front row, dabbing at her eyes. Noah's parents sat beside her, Carol reaching over to squeeze my mother's hand in a gesture of support and forgiveness. And there, at the end of the aisle, stood Noah, his face breaking into a radiant smile when he saw me approaching on my father's arm. In that moment, I knew with absolute certainty that we had made the right choice, not just in refusing to invite the Millers, but in every decision that had led us to this perfect moment. My father placed my hand in Noah's, then stepped back to join my mother. "You look incredible," Noah whispered. "So do you," I replied, taking in his linen suit and the joy in his eyes. As the officiant began the ceremony, I glanced around at the gathered faces, Noah's family, my brother, the handful of relatives and friends who had stood by us, and now, unexpectedly and wonderfully, my parents. This was our family, now people who respected our choices, supported our decisions, and chose love over control. The ocean breeze carried the scent of salt and flowers as we exchanged our vows, promising to love, honor, and respect each other. When Noah slipped the ring on my finger, his hand steady and sure, I knew that whatever challenges we faced in the future, we would face them together, standing firm in our boundaries and strong in our love. Later, during the reception, my father approached us, champagne in hand. "I've been making some phone calls," he said. "I'm restructuring the business, buying the Millers out." "Dad, you don't have to do that," I began, but he shook his head. "Yes, I do. Not just for you, but for me. Robert Miller has been controlling me through that business partnership for years. It's time I took back my own company and my own life." He raised his glass in a toast to boundaries. "May I learn to respect yours as I finally establish my own." Noah and I clinked our glasses against his. "To boundaries," we echoed. As the celebration continued around us, music playing, people dancing, laughter filling the warm evening air, Noah pulled me close for a dance. "Was it worth it?" he asked. "All the fighting? All the stress?" I looked around at our wedding, perfectly imperfect in all the ways that mattered. My parents dancing nearby, tentative steps toward healing already begun. Noah's family embracing mine with open arms. And most importantly, the man in my arms who had stood beside me through it all. Every moment, I answered truthfully, I wouldn't change a thing. The Tula moon rose over the ocean, casting silver light across the water, as Noah and I began our new life together, not just as husband and wife, but as architects of our own family story, one built on respect, support, and the courage to stand firm for the things that truly matter. Story 2. The entitled family that left me insists that I buy my entitled sister a wedding gown for $6,000. As the CEO's executive assistant for a rather large fashion company, I essentially serve as my boss's slave and carry out her orders. There are various facets to my work, and new things might always arise. There are benefits to my career, yet it may be exhausting at times. I frequently receive complimentary outfits, mostly for my boss's large occasions. Although it wouldn't look good if I were wearing anything from a different designer, my employer also offers me any apparel that has flaws or isn't up to his standards. People seem to assume I'm stuck up because of this, but I assure them that's not the case. I truly value my boss's actions, since there was a period when I had very little money and was unable to purchase either luxury or inexpensive food or clothing. My supervisor once said that one of her bridal gowns had a flaw. It was not as long as it should have been. I didn't know anyone who could use one, but she asked if I did. My employer gave it to me even though my best buddy of 5 years had gotten engaged a few months earlier, and I subsequently handed it to my friend. Since I was 20, my friend has supported me. She took me in and guided me through a really difficult time. There is nothing in the world that I love more than her. But this is when things start to get nasty. After seeing my friend's article expressing gratitude to me, my boss, and my family began receiving calls and texts. It's crucial to understand that I don't get along well with my family. When I came out to my parents at the age of 16, they expelled me. Compared to my parents, my sister wasn't any better. Actually, even before I was expelled, we didn't get along. She was extremely self-centered and entitled. After that, I battled for a while, After that, I lived with my aunt until I was 18, which was difficult because we didn't have much money. After attending design school and obtaining an internship, I was hired by my present employer. It wasn't until my family learned that I was employed by a multi-million-dollar corporation and earning a respectable salary. Did they wish to return to my life all of a sudden, which I permitted in order to prevent drama? In essence, my sister and mother contacted to ask why I gave the clothing to my friend rather than my sister. She was apparently getting married. I was completely unaware of her engagement. Family should come first, they said as they scolded me. By the way, they are the same individuals that expelled me when I was 16. They even recommended that since family should come first, I try to make amends for my buddy. They began berating me in front of my extended family after I told them bluntly that would never happen. My extended family also began insulting me and messaging me. It's absolutely wrong that my sister even attempted to phone my boss to voice her displeasure. A little more good news to update. Today, my friend texted me to tell me that she and her friend agreed to use the wedding gown. Among them, 3 of the 5 are already engaged. That strikes me as sweet. P.S. Her girlfriends are all lovely women, and I know them all quite well. A few messages asking if this could be used for a video were received after the second update. You don't have to inquire. You are welcome to use it. If you do, please share a video with me so I can watch it. Well, thank goodness they gave us permission. You can't see me, but I'm winking right now. But I feel like the person making this post has done pretty much everything right. I feel like for any reason, if your family kicks you out at 16, you're kind of entitled not to like them or want to talk to them. And on their side, the "oh family" means more than anything excuse. It doesn't really work because you kick your child out at 16. So, they suck. Anyway, let's go on. Update 1 entitled Mother Who Abandoned Me Demands a $12,000 Wedding Dress for My Sister. September 25th, 2019. Well, last night my entitled family struck again. Last night I got a call from my mother. At this point, I haven't spoken to my family since the previous incident. This is the conversation we had. By the way, I'm going to act this one out because I have to have fun with me. Hello, Mom. Hello, Dax. Mom, what is it now? A little rude, I know, but it has gotten to the point. I cannot even pretend to be nice with them. Your sister is still upset about the dress. Well, she needs to get over it. I gave the dress to Megan. It belongs to Megan. Plain and simple, I know. Really? She accepts she's not getting the dress. Okay, good. Me and your sister came up with a way to make it up to her, though. What? Since you didn't give her the other dress, we thought you could get her another one. I can't do that. Why not? You got one for that friend of yours? I did not get one for her. My boss gave me a defect dress and told me I could give it to someone I knew who needed it. Your sister doesn't want a defect. She needs a great outfit. Are you kidding me? No. She said she wants the one you posted on your Instagram the other day. That outfit cost $12,000. That will be perfect. Seriously? You expect me to give you guys a $12,000 dress? Are you high? You do not speak to your mother that way. You're absurd. She is your sister. Do you not have respect for your family? Respect? Seriously? You booted me out when I was 16. That was a long time ago. And we are talking about your sister, not me. Yeah, my sister. The one that calls me her brother insults when I'm not around. I'm not obtaining her address from work. And that is final, all right? However, helping her by one is the least you can do. Do you mean me? This is when I hung up. She made a few follow-up calls, but I simply ignored them. I seriously thought about disconnecting them once more. This is becoming absurd. Well, 2, but 1 was enjoyable to play out. Given that both the mother and the sister are crazy, I'm sure that was not enjoyable to live out. I can't fathom the agony of just saying to my own parents, God, that's awful. However, yes. Let's go on. Last update. I refused to give her an outfit worth $12,000, so her entitled sister tried to assault me. May 4, 2021. Things quickly became serious, and I had to take small legal action against my parents and large legal action against my sister. I also uploaded a few more tales, but I had to remove them for my own protection. I stopped blogging about the legal case because it was draining, notwithstanding my promise to do so, even if I wasn't much in the mood to write about it when it was finished. In fact, I removed my initial account. I had already attempted to return, but I was still unprepared. However, I just saw my tail in a well-liked TikToker's video while browsing Facebook. I wanted to provide an update after seeing their link page here. Here it is then. Thus, the pandemic struck 2 months after my sister was placed under a no-contact order. My spouse, who was my boyfriend at the time, and I shared a little one-bedroom apartment. We relocated to his parents' farm before things got out of hand, since they had a large farmhouse with lots of space. I was so ecstatic that words cannot express it. A few weeks after moving out, we took this action. My sister returns to my flat. Our doorbell cam captured everything even if we weren't home. I am not permitted to distribute the video as it is legal proof. When she arrived, she began pounding on my door. She began by chanting my name and urging us to open up, but then she began to use a variety of slurs and obscenities. Basically, it was F word this, F word that. Subsequently, she began to threaten us with death. We initially assumed she was only making threats. However, the danger became detailed and unsettling. We showed the police the footage, but since they didn't know who she was, they weren't able to do much. America is not where my sister resides. Both of us were born outside of our nation. When I was 18, I came here on a student visa. My sister still stays in our home country, so my fiance and I had to essentially sit in terror. After that, I obtained a work visa and legally became an American citizen a year ago when I married my husband. Our unit was smashed into and destroyed once more a few days later. My sister was at the door, as seen via the doorbell cam. Fortunately, she was apprehended this time as she was fleeing the scene. My sister got into a lot of difficulty because she went abroad during a pandemic in addition to what she did to us. At the time, there were travel restrictions in place in both the US and our nation. How? My sister managed to get beyond it. I don't know. In the end, they chose to return my sister home to be dealt with there after she spent a month in the state while they considered her options. Unfortunately, this means I don't know what her charges are. My sister and parents haven't messaged me, perhaps because they don't want to become involved directly. Back home, my sister is facing some severe charges, but I've received a lot of hate mail from my other relatives who blame me for her ordeal. Well, there you have it. I felt compelled to update, even if it wasn't that thrilling. Not very thrilling. What? Holy shit. It's similar to the season finale. I hope it's the series' conclusion. In order to spare the person who is doing this from ever having to deal with their parents or sibling. But what a journey, the essence of entitlement. Ask for a dress for $12,000 when you kick them out. Good grief. But maybe this person will now be able to enjoy life. The second story. I ruined Christmas today by purchasing ancestral DNA kits for everyone. Ancestry DNA had a kit sale earlier this year. I purchased 6 of these as Christmas presents, since I felt they would make wonderful presents. My family and I gathered today to exchange gifts as part of our Christmas Eve custom. I donated a kit to my mother, father, brother, and 2 sisters. As soon as everyone simultaneously unwrapped their gifts, my mother began to panic. She said that because they contained dangerous substances, she didn't want us to take them. Even when we clarified that there were no chemicals, we could see she was still agitated. She later attempted to resell more kits to get money and persuaded us that only one of us kids needed to take it because the outcomes would be the same for all of us. After an hour of our parents arguing upstairs, we are downstairs attempting to determine who has a different father. For Christmas, the first purchased ancestral DNA kits for every member of my family. My mother began to panic. My dad may not be my dad anymore because of the arguments between our parents. Update. I sincerely appreciate all of your love and support. Regardless of the test findings, my brother, sisters, and I have not yet made up our minds about taking it. No matter what, we will always love our parents and one other. The second update. There is no ruin to Christmas. In fact, my mess became a Christmas miracle. As it happens, my sister's father died not long after she was born. After helping Mom get through the most difficult period of her life, a close friend of hers fell in love with her, and the rest of our family was born. Because yesterday night was so difficult for my mom, they didn't tell us. For the first time, she had the strength to share pictures and tales with us, which really strengthened our bond as a family. This Christmas will always be remembered. Indeed, we are all eager to learn the results of our tests. Happy Christmas to all of you. P.S. I apologize. My mother is not a harlot. You're not my father. No. What a roller coaster that was. A Christmas whirlwind. God, oh geez. I don't want to do those Ancestry DNA kit tests because of this. One was handed to me. Although I don't believe it will happen to every family, I said, no, I don't want to know anything more about my family. You can't make such stuff up, my God. The third story is that I brought my fiancé home to see my family and then departed without a fiancé. After 3 years of dating, I, 35, became engaged to E31M in March of this year. Up until I presented him to my family, it was pure happiness. It was crucial that he have my family's approval, so we traveled home to see them. I did it to please him, even though I didn't care. Everyone looked really delighted for us and welcomed him. My oldest brother proposed a camping vacation for siblings in a cabin up north before the trip ended, so that we could bond and get to know my fiancé away from our parents. I was hesitant since I don't usually spend this much time at home, but I finally accepted that the vacation was going well, so I relaxed and chose to enjoy spending time with my siblings in the mountains. But everything changed the day before the tour ended. It was just 11 in the morning when my sister and her husband got into their 17th dispute of the day. She remained there sobbing as her husband stormed out. I proposed a trek to help everyone decompress because I'm not good with other people's feelings. To allow my sister to speak freely if necessary, my fiancé proposed that our siblings depart. He said he would only check some emails while we were out when I inquired if he was certain. My sister expressed her desire to return home early in the hike. She said she wanted to get her thoughts straight, so I offered to walk her back. She returned to the cabin while we hiked on. My brother and his wife wanted to explore after the hike, but I just wanted to take a shower, so I went back to the cabin. Even though it was a few hours later, my sister's car was still outside. I went inside, ignoring it. From upstairs, I heard faint groans followed by a recognizable grunt. My sister and my fiancé were together in the worst possible way when I went upstairs. I felt something shatter inside. I silently gathered my belongings, left my ring on the counter, and snapped a picture of what I saw. I turned off my phone, sent the photo to the family group chat, and walked away. The following day, I had over 75 text messages from my fiancé and 47 missed calls from my family. Her husband was rude to my fiancé after receiving the text while he was heading back to the cabin. At first, I thought my actions were justified. Although I detest it, I did. Even though what they did was awful, I now realize that sending that picture to the family chat was wrong and disgusting, and the innocent family members didn't deserve to be involved. My engagement is over. After removing myself from the family group chat, I haven't discussed it with anyone. It has felt so empty these past few months. All I want to do is get over this, but I'm not sure how. I will tell it like it is. I thought this would be funny when I first started reading it, but it ended up being gloomy and melancholy. This poor woman, oh man. But what do you know? I should probably anticipate that it won't end happily if it's a Reddit post. Hopefully, she will be able to discover who she is during these difficult times. The fourth story. My wife of more than 20 years passed away recently. I didn't anticipate this, even though I knew she had a secret from before we met. Even though I don't think anyone who is directly impacted would read this, I'm using my Trolley alt account. We do remain apart from my primary account. I even used this account to post about a portion of this 11 years ago. My wife died not long ago. She passed away, which was a relief because it is torture. Something always made her ill. She was taken by an unexpected heart attack. Although it might have been coming for a while, we dismissed the symptoms as being connected to other problems she was dealing with. I can only tell that things went quickly, and that she is no longer in agony. We were both in our early 20s when we first met at a conference. She came to visit for a long romantic weekend after we had been corresponding over the phone for a few months. We lived in separate states. She received a call from her sister while she was out here, basically telling her not to come home. She packed her belongings, flew home, and moved in with me. I've never met her relatives. When I contacted her mother before that tragic weekend, I spoke with her for a short while, and I took her sister's call at the conclusion of the weekend. We had financial difficulties the whole time we were married, which was a few years later. She lost employment due to her different illnesses, and my career suffered greatly as a result of the time I missed working to help her throughout her hospitalizations. She was a huge burden, even though I adored her. Although I would have likely left her years ago, she felt compelled to do so since she was cut off from her whole family. Just me and nobody else. She would be alone in the world if I abandoned her. She wasn't a solitary recluse. Her social life greatly outshone mine, and she made acquaintances with ease. We were never financially secure enough to adopt, have IVF, or contact a doctor about the reasons for our inability to conceive. I still cherished her. We never cheated on one another. I had a suspicion that she was hiding something from me about her family, but if I attempted to bring it up, she would shut me down and urge me not to bring it up. Even though I knew both of her parents had passed away, I felt compelled to inform her family that I had no method of getting in touch with them after she passed away. Both deaths occurred years after she informed me about them, but I knew enough to locate the obituaries before she passed away. She was the one who resisted my encouragement to attempt to get back in touch with her family. He was implying that they were untrustworthy, poisonous, and cunning individuals. My buddy offered to use the information from her parents' obituary to assist get in touch with them. She located my wife's relatives and informed them of the situation. They spoke with her and gave her a shocking revelation. My wife gave birth to a boy. He was most likely a child when I first met her, and he is currently in his late 20s. Throughout our time together, she never spoke about him to me. I just know his name and that her parents reared him. Tomorrow morning, I will speak with one of her sisters to get all the information. This is obviously a chapter in her life, which is why I feel conflicted. For some reason, she never wanted me to know. Additionally, it doesn't seem like something a mother who is so kind and caring with her children and other people would do. She may have gone away due to circumstances surrounding the child's birth. I'm not really sure why she did this, but I have mixed feelings about it. In the event that her family is as terrible as she has always made them out to be, I will likewise be skeptical of anything they say. My life partner passed away, and I'm in grieving after learning that she wasn't who I had assumed she was. Update: I learned a lot about my wife's family via our phone conversation with her sister. The train was in ruins. Parents and grandparents have abused their children verbally, mentally, and physically for generations, probably going back 100 years or more. Incorporate mental health conditions such as paranoid schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and multiple personality disorder. Getting out was undoubtedly a good thing. What about the son? He's not sure yet. It's been years since he last spoke to his sister. A family train disaster. She can call him though. Surgery, which is planned for around the same time as the funeral, is one of the sister's ongoing medical problems. And once she is in, which should be in a month or two, we will let him know. We'll see. She kept the father's identity a secret. At 19, she gave birth to him. During her first year in college, she became pregnant. She had told me that during her freshman year, she had been sexually abused. Both of them began making out while intoxicated. He went on even though she begged to stop. It was found to be consensual after she reportedly reported it to the school. I'm not sure if the baby was born as a result of the sexual assault, whether it was unrelated to this or whether she made the decision after the fact in order to deal with the unintended pregnancy. I am aware that it's horrible to not believe a woman who says she was sexually assaulted. It was 25 or 30 years ago. Therefore, it is quite possible that he is a victim of sexual assault. Abortion was most likely off the agenda because of the family's strong religious beliefs. Despite her strong pro-choice stance, my wife declared she would never have an abortion after our early pregnancy scare, and an adoption was set up. However, my wife abruptly backed out. Between the ages of 1 and 3, my wife reportedly left him with her parents. The sister told me one narrative, but based on my knowledge of her past, the child would have been a little older than 2 when I first saw her. When I first met her, she was attending a neighboring college and lived with her parents. The child must have been living with her when he was 5 years old. He was formally adopted by his grandparents. My wife would hang up on them whenever they tried to contact her. One certified letter was returned undeliverable. My wife's lack of participation supposedly caused the procedure to take a year to finish. By this point, we were most likely married, but I had no idea. According to the son, she left him when he was 14 years old. I'm not sure what was said to him previously, but he didn't take it well. Homeless and drug abusing episodes followed. See the family train disaster discussed earlier. About 4 or 5 years ago, the youngster wanted to know about his parents. The sister made contact over Facebook Messenger and the phone. My wife blocked them after hanging up on them. At that time, he was finished and didn't want anything more from his mother. He has a career, has apparently maintained his sobriety, and has been in a committed partnership for a number of years. I informed the sister that I would talk to the son if she wanted to talk to me, but I have no plans to contact him. I'll share with him all I know about her life. None of this seemed familiar to me. She didn't make a mistake in front of me. She didn't always celebrate his birthday in a strange way. Nothing. I can only make the most of our time together. I would do virtually everything to have her back, even if it had been more than 20 years, only to express my affection for her. I'm not sure whether there have been any changes, but it's possible that some of her relatives will attend the memorial ceremony in a few weeks. Either after the memorial service or if I speak to the son, it will be. Man, aren't today's themes depressing? Geez, I'm relieved that the author still has feelings for his wife. It might make some individuals think, oh, all of my memories are tarnished, and so forth. However, he appears to still be content. His thoughts about it, I suppose the secret stunned. Although he doesn't appear to have been upset about it, things could have gone worse for him. Additionally, he seems to be attempting to get in touch with the son and share what he knows, but I don't know enough about the family to comment. And I believe the son may have earned the knowledge about his mother. Thus, all right, that's a story 3. I, man 31, was falsely accused of sexual assault by my 24-year-old cousin F. After over a decade, my family is now getting in touch with me. Hello? Although I've never had an account on Reddit, I've been reading several articles since someone on another site linked to the subreddit. Tell me if this is the incorrect subreddit, please. Please be patient with me, as English is not my native language. The title pretty much sums it up. I simply don't know what to do. Wounds are being torn apart, and an old anger is resurfacing. I'll give you some background. The household in which I grew up was presumably the most typical of all. Despite their busy schedules, my parents were able to provide for my 3 elder sisters and me. As a family, we were never particularly tight, but we also never had any problems. My extended family is no different. We always got along well when we visited one another over the summer holidays or Christmas, even though they lived a few hours away. However, as everyone had their own life, we inevitably grew apart as we grew older. I am now 31. My mother called me in 2014 when I was 22 and a university student, and it completely changed my life. She phoned again right away after the first one, but I recall not even answering at first as I was playing video games with pals. The family had an unspoken rule about this. It's significant if you call twice in such manner, as if someone had passed away. Significant. I excused myself and answered when she phoned again, only to hear a flurry of activity on the other end, as if someone was having a fight. However, it seemed like my mother moved to another room and shut the door after realizing I had responded. She was weeping when I asked her what was going on. Although my recollection of this discussion is a little hazy, she essentially asked me if I had anything to confess about E, who is my mom's side cousin and was 15 years younger than me at the time. I hadn't seen E in years at that time. I just declined and inquired as to the nature of this. She just sobbed even more and began accusing me of sexually abusing E when we were kids, saying that E had told my sister everything, and that my sister had informed my mother and my aunt, who were both 9 and 16 at the time, about it. When I entered my room, she was playing, and I began kissing and feeling her under her clothing. My mother yelled for me to speak, but I was unable to do so, and that was ridiculous. I recall thinking this had to be some sort of offensive joke, that it's untrue and that E is lying was the last thing I recall saying. However, my mother continues by describing how E provided such a thorough account of the location and method that she continued asking, "Did you do this? Have you done this?" No, I simply yelled back at her. Every time, it ended with my mother putting me on speaker and my parents declaring that they don't want to interact with me and that I should never get in touch with them again. Later that day, two of my sisters blocked me after essentially calling me repulsive in a text message. I know it's strange, but I took a long shower following that call. I still don't understand why I did that. I began texting and contacting everyone, including E, as soon as I got down. Those who hadn't banned my phone by then promptly did so once no one responded. My father was the only one to respond, texting me to cease communication because they wanted time to recover. I haven't spoken to any members of my family since that day 9 years ago. It would be an understatement to say this effed me up. For weeks following that, I was in a daze and didn't eat much. The fact that I was already under a lot of stress, and this was just before I was due to defend my bachelor's thesis, didn't help. Fortunately, my co-writer saw that something was wrong and intervened to let me have the easy portions of the chat. I'm positive I wouldn't have succeeded without him. It goes without saying that nobody attended my graduation, which marked the beginning of the worst time of my life. For the first year, I was afraid that the police would come to my house and take me into custody for sexual assault. I'm living off of my savings because I didn't get any work. I did oxy and drank a lot. I also became angry and aggressive. The fact that no one was around is the only reason I didn't injure anyone. Once when I broke a glass, my neighbors called the police on me. Since no one else was in my apartment, I was able to persuade the policeman that I had simply dropped the glass, and they left. I didn't sleep at night. Instead, I thought of ways to harm E and ensure that no one ever found out. I even considered ways to commit the things she had accused me of, but much worse. I'm not proud of it. I know that. In late 2015, I got my first actual job in my profession. Then and only then did things begin to get better. I dedicated all of my time to my work since it provided me with a regular task. I drank less, but the healing process took time. I've been sober for more than 4 years and have a bigger smile. I made it a point to purchase myself a beautiful birthday present because I made decent money and lived frugally. Legos, a VR headset, a motorcycle, and last year, I bought a little house instead of my awful apartment. Having my own garage and garden to tend to was a long-held ambition of mine. This has given me even more confidence. My life is presently going well. I continue to have issues. For the past few years, I've been taking antidepressants, and although they do assist, it's not in a pleasant way. They just take out the evil ideas and put the dead ones in their place. I also have very little faith in other people. I've made an effort at dating, but I've only gone out twice with 2 different ladies. At that point, it's really difficult to talk like a regular person. And if my prospective spouse inquired about my family, what would I say? Oh, we're no longer communicating after they accused me of a horrible crime. But I promise I didn't do anything. My therapist, whom I really adore, is the only woman I actually talk to because my field is heavily dominated by men. I'm sorry if this content was hard to understand. Even on my best days, I struggle with words. So as it all came back to me, I began to ramble. Since it's becoming long, I'll get right to my present problem. My mother texted me a couple of days ago. I gazed at the notice for hours before reading it since it felt surreal, and I was initially afraid to do so. Then came another text yesterday. They essentially say text 1 when translated. Hello, my name. We haven't spoken in such a long time. We want to know how you're doing because we miss you. In this lengthy note, she talks about my sisters and the growing size of my nieces and nephews. I had no idea that I was an uncle. Being aware that you are loved and always will be. Text number 2, parents. Hello, my name. After what occurred, we can understand if you don't want to speak with us. But pay attention. At a family get-together last month, the topic of you came up. He was downplaying all that had happened to her at this time. She eventually acknowledged that nothing had happened, and that she most likely had a dream since it had become so embarrassing. This horrified all of us. We did what we believed was the only thing we could do to safeguard E when we last spoke. We are aware that this does not justify the way you were handled. We were all upset with her since what we'd done was wrong. We have phoned and spoken the truth to everyone we know. Your sisters want you to meet their families, and we all want to talk to you. If you have the capacity to forgive us, kindly write back. Parents, that's my current predicament then. They're sure I've seen it, but I haven't responded. To be honest, I'm furious. Now, A lot of horrible memories from the past are resurfacing. I'd rather not forgive them. Furthermore, I wouldn't put my confidence in myself to be in the same room with them at this moment. I feel like calling my family and telling them everything I've been through, making them feel guilty till they're all at their lowest, and then dedicating my life to making my cousin's life as terrible as possible. With my motorcycle in my lawn to keep me company, the other half of me wants to ignore them and carry on with my mediocre lifestyle. Edit. I don't know anyone. My coworkers are the only ones I talk to, although we are not very close. My therapist is on vacation and won't be accessible for weeks, according to the clinic I phoned. Since I don't want to see anyone else but her, I'm left with online strangers. So please. From here, whither to go? Should I disregard them and carry on as is? Or should I respond? If so, what exactly should I write? I'm not exactly sure how picking up those old threads would make my life better, but I'm rather certain that meeting them in person would be a poor idea for the foreseeable future. No matter how awful it sounds. When they apologize, I've had dreams of them falling to the ground and kissing my feet. These days, texting seems so unimpressive. I was shunned by my family when my cousin unjustly accused me of sexually abusing her while we were children. My family is reaching out to me to make apologies when it was discovered that it never happened. I'm not sure how to react. Edit. Holy shit. Yesterday, after responding to a few comments, I went to bed. When someone just told me to wait for my therapist to return something that had slipped my mind, I was pleased. There are currently 1,300 comments. When I come home from work, I'll attempt to read them all, but I can't possibly answer them all. All I want to do is talk about something. My therapist wouldn't leave for so long without alerting me, according to what I heard from several folks. This is a state-run clinic. I'm not sure how it operates elsewhere. Not even an hourly rate. When I went there, I was paired with her initially. This implies that she will keep inviting me to further encounters. However, this is not entirely accurate. It's not unusual for me to get someone else after 4 or 6 weeks of vacation if she's on leave or ill. I've received messages from several folks regarding a TikTok update video. Note that I am not this person. What you see on this website is all I have written. I'm angry. Oh, dude. For example, I can read this post and go on. But for 10 years, this man had to put up with this. That is simply messed up. Good grief. Let's go on. Update. Hello. Even though I don't have much to say, I thought I'd publish an update because it's been a long and I can't even count the number of people who have asked for one. I want to start by clearing up a few things. We appreciate everyone who wrote and provided guidance and encouragement. Please know that I have read them and apologize for not being able to respond to them all. I also want to thank everyone who got in touch with me to chat about my interests and divert my attention. I apologize for my lack of response, but I know that you all meant well to the overtly antagonistic people who were counseling me rather than allowing a religious figure to enter my life and even threatened to have me stop taking antidepressants. No, a lot of individuals advised me to take legal action. For several reasons, I chose long ago not to include this in my initial article. In the best scenario, I wouldn't gain anything, and she would receive a smack on the wrist. The legal hassle isn't worth it, in my opinion. And suppose I were to somehow lose all of her legal fees. 3. I've received a number of messages regarding the phony upgrades. There are some phony updates on YouTube and TikTok, as I said in an update to my previous article. If you saw something on other platforms that you didn't read in the text below or in the post that is linked above, it wasn't from me. I simply want everyone who reads my original posts to know that these films are not made by me, even if I don't really care about others posting phony updates. Even my original post about our relationships, which included these updates, was allegedly accessible to someone. That is untrue. Now that I have things resolved, I will add what is truly happening in my life at the moment. Please be aware that I made the initial post out of rage, and that I needed a wake-up call since I had no idea what to do. I received that within the first 5 to 10 replies. I really only needed it. My therapist and I have met. She was able to reschedule my first September appointment, and thus far we have had to speak. She read many of your comments as well as the original post. However, she would have preferred that I confide in her coworkers. She was ultimately happy that you guys advised me to wait and relax a little. She has direct experience of my anger. I won't go over everything we discussed, but the bottom line is that I might reply to my parents eventually, but it won't be anytime soon. In order to help those who have asked, my therapist and I will go over everything I've started writing down and share with my family. They haven't made an effort to get in touch with me. This issue will no longer be updated by me, not anyone on Reddit, including direct messages. If there are any more phony updates, I won't comment unless it's something really significant. Although I don't mean to be impolite, and I value all of the support, there are moments when it is really exhausting. When the moderators locked the comments on the first post, I was almost relieved. Finally, I want to express my gratitude to everyone who has been sending me well wishes and asking how I'm doing. Additionally, I am still alive for those who are writing the check. You don't need to do that, so don't worry. I'm off for work for a while and not by the computer much. I'm busy painting my garage. So like I said, that's just it. Yeah, but also the people making fake updates. Are you kidding me? I feel like I should say something since we're making these type of videos, bro. What? There's so many real Reddit posts. You freaking dorks make some better content, not fake content. Anyway, next story. Story number 2. I, 35, am feeling salty about the recent orgasm math with my partner at 20:08 a.m. Did I ask for too much? I, 35, have been very happy with my current partner, 28. And for more than a year now, he's been more attentive than any other. And not just in the bedroom. Although it's often the best sex of my life. We moved in together 2.5 months ago. All my friends fully approve and can tell I've been really happy. He's usually so considerate, and we have a great base of mutual respect. But the last 2 weeks have honestly left me feeling hurt, frustrated, and a little blindsided by the turn of events, because we've never had any real issues. The story that led to my frustration told her at the end, in the last 2 weeks, I came down with mononucleosis. My adventure with it included 2 trips to my GP doctor, one which the doc said and looked at me, "Your tonsils look terrible." Terrible was out of work for 8 days, had a trip to the ER, and I even had to cancel travel plans for a family member's funeral because I couldn't recover in time, which was super disappointing. My throat was nearly swollen shut for several days. I was eating ibuprofen around the clock, and the pain was nearly unmanageable. After all that, the nausea and vomiting set in because I had so little of my stomach besides medications. I was miserable through all this. My boyfriend was super attentive, asking if I needed anything, and anxious to get me to eat and rest. He practically dragged me to the hospital because I'm super stubborn about seeking extra care, and I'm very anti-dependent, and I was in terrible shape while this was all happening. He was still constantly initiating sex. Anytime I looked to be half comfortable enough for any period of time, there came a day or two. I declined, and he was appreciative of that. But most days I tried to offer him some sexual attention, PIV or other pranks, frequently more than once. I know his sex drive is inherently stronger than mine, and I eventually do want to accommodate his demands. Yet, he was not returning the effort to make sure I was pleased during practically any of this. When I eventually started to truly feel better, and the last time we had sex, he did just enough to make me interested in sex. And when he finished before me, I nearly sobbed in frustration. A day later, after brooding and realizing we'd had no fewer than 8 intimate encounters in a row, when there was very little in it for me, I let him have it and basically told him this: the next time we have sex, it better be freaking wonderful for me, or I'm going on strike. He chuckled at little way I said it, and I answered that he was sorry if it had been mediocre lately, and that the length of time in between things definitely contributed to that. Honestly, brevity was not the issue. It was the apparent disdain for my satisfaction. He's certainly capable of gratifying me if he makes an effort. I went on. It really wasn't that long in between, and I was making such an effort, even though I've been unhappy, because I know it's vital to you if you want to maintain having excellent sex. If you want me to continue engaged in our sexual connection, I get to complete to 80% of the time, or you're really going to have frequency difficulties, because I'm going to lose interest and stop putting the effort in. You'll return to, depending on yourself and your dejected hand, if I don't find it enjoyable." He didn't dispute. "All right, I understand," he responded. "But since then, no sex has taken place. I admit that I was too severe. I believe it's reasonable for me to be irritated, but my annoyance and emotional tiredness overcame me. While I was mourning and very sick, I tried to make sure his sexual demands were still satisfied by compromising my comfort. I'm furious with him for not reciprocating for the entire week. I feel as though he has violated my generosity in some way. Additionally, I don't mean to be a jerk and keep score, but I think it should be obvious that if you and your partner are having 99% to 100% orgasmic sexual encounters, and your partner is only climaxing 30% of those or less, then your partner's natural desire to offer themselves up will decrease. Is it unreasonable to expect a woman to climax 80% of the time? It makes sense that this person is unaware of how fortunate he is. What an idiot! What a fool! What a stupid fool! Oh my God! It is like a commercial deal when it comes to sex, ladies and gentlemen. Only when everyone wins does it work. If no one, you failed at sex if neither side is winning. Speak with the folks of your partner. All right, I'm finished.